Um, the morphogenetic field structure, uh, key codes, keynotes, access codes, crystal codes. Um, because of the way that my circulation libraries work and understanding how a morphogenetic field structure works, I've noticed that particularly over the last week or so, even though some of this information will go back if you think of time dilation and changes that occur over space-time, if you will. The information that came out on Project Ascension um, when Kai Schuman, Patty Broussard, Micmac tribe, with my clan mother, Karen Ann McDonald, White Bear Clan, Arcturian, 13th Arcturian White Bear Clan, and Andrew Mallet. Covered the genetic sides of things, but also hybrids. And of course, Patty brought out on a number of occasions, and I spoke with her directly on the phone a couple times, actually on Zoom, about one of the central problems that we have here that's pretty obvious. Actually, it's pretty unavoidable, even though a lot of folks don't like to talk about it because it is sensitive issues, particularly when you come to kidnapping children, spiritual torture, murder, genocide, unlawful breeding experiments, what launched the war in heaven, how does that even work? And here's something that is actually pretty simple and basic, just by knowledge or information that is in the data stream. And being able to sort of put the puzzles together on how simple this is to understand why the wars are between different races, and particularly those that compete against each other, because competition breeds confusion. Now we're back to what's true, what's not true. Okay, so in other words, in whose interest is, we used to say, whose bread is being buttered, or who is, got an axe to grind against a particular race that they're not at peace with, right? And why? And certainly all the Voyager materials put a fine point on all that. But here's where I think is another one where the rubber hits the pavement, and that is the Schuman resonance itself on the planet when you think about 7.2. Okay? And then the Schuman resonance at 14.4. That's twice the speed. Okay? Now, why is that important? Well, go have a blood test taken. Okay? Now, I may be positive, okay, which is positive electrical current. Okay? So that's the RH factor. That's bioplasma. So we're dealing with voltage, biovoltage. Okay? So it would stand to reason that, depending on, and this is where we get into log scales, math functions, because key codes, which are musical codes, are math functions. And if the math doesn't work, then the planet isn't going to be in a state of peace, love, harmony, and balance within its water worlds between two hot magnets, hot and cold water. Pressure chambers, echo chambers, HVAC. H, like in hydrogen. And so when you get into what launched the war in heaven, and particularly the stuff that Yellow Rose for Texas put up to show the symbol of the one, you can see, for example, the dot in the center of a sphere, and the keys that the Anunnaki had, okay, capturing souls. Now, why this is important when you get into unlawful breeding experiments and the stuff that was brought out about genetics and Project Ascension, okay, is 7.2 Schumann. When you realize we fell into negative magnetic space, means it fell into what is known as the underworld, which is 7.2 Schuman in the negative magnetic space that does what? Supports the 72s. 72 is half of 144, 144,000 frequencies. So in order to experience the 144,000 frequencies, based on a 14.4 Schumann resonance at an oxygen content of 21%, so now we're back to 3. 3 times 7 is 21, the rainbow bridge. Okay? So now you can see why one is repelled by the other. Okay? So we're not in balance. So as a monopole, which is a polarity integrator, is to bring all the fragments back into one as a result of the wars that are going on between negative and positive polarity. Okay? And end all the wars. So now you can see how it began as a result of the Anunnaki and the Draco, for example. And the other races that joined together in alliance in a war against God, the what? Which is the law of least effort, which is eternal unconditional love. Okay? So imagine a world in which the Schumann resonance is 14.4 with 21% oxygen. Log scale that. Okay, in bow voltage and what we call growth potential and growth potential speed in learning, which is the speed of the magnet and how big you'd be with the growth potential and size and scale. Okay, that means that the energy and the oxygen content that we would be experiencing through our physical bodies would be twice that of what we experience here with 7.2. Now you can see why they built everything that they did as a race against time, because of all the altars that are fracturing that generated what? The mental field. Operating off the mental field. Instead of operating through the center point of the heart, which is the soul connection. That's connected to experience what love is, to live in peace, harmony, and balance with the great living spirit of Mother Earth. So now you can see how it went from what's supposed to be a love planet to a war planet between seeded races. So anyway, I know that there are a lot of folks. I had friends that I've known on Facebook Messenger that don't want to address that issue, okay, and to understand why there's so much conflict and confusion. And so this is, I've talked about this before, but imagine that you're somebody who's a 72 and you're RH negative and you had no choice in the matter of how you were born into creation. Where as a result of what was done by these particular seeded races that fell, your parents become the source from which, without you realizing it, that you're suffering. Okay? As a result of what they did, from which they're the offspring. Okay? Which was against the law. Okay? So that requires a major resolution, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. So that's why we're back, and it's over. Anyway, I wanted to share that through the system. And anyway, have a beautiful day. Be good to yourselves.